Jeff McLane. He's got a podcast here with us at Odyssey called Uncovering the Birds, where he has talked about a lot of interesting things over the last several months. He did talk about the potential for a Jalen Hurts extension on the last episode. Here's what he had to say.
He didn't really kind of directly address the Hurts question. When it comes to Hurts and the extension, it's like, okay, typically if you look at his deal, it might make sense to kind of like lower the cap because, again, speaking about another domino, if you trade A.J. Brown, you're taking before the June 1st, the date of June 1st, you're taking a $45 million cap hit, right? Where you're going to need some space to go sign some guys and sign your own guys. And to do that, you may have to give Jalen Hurts, or maybe it makes sense to give Jalen the extension and lower that cap hit. I don't know if they're going to do it at the quarterback position because everything that they're doing in terms of the scheme, and I think they're kind of comfortable right now, maybe where they are with Jalen, as I've used this phrase many times, inflection point, I think, for his career. He's only 27. I'm sure they would love to have him if he's building up, but it's been kind of like a little bit of this, over the last several years, and recently it's this. And like, okay, that happens for a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of franchise quarterbacks, but I don't know if it benefits them. If you did even take the cap out of the situation, I don't know if it benefits them to give him more years on that deal. He's already making a lot of money, and it's already kind of cut into what they can do in terms of the rest of the cap.
So, he's right that this is an inflection point in Jalen Hurts' career. It is right. Whether you think they should give him an extension or not, I think there is a lot of question about what is going to happen with Jalen as a player moving forward. He has been in a certain, over the last 3 years, he's just sort of, fluttered in between from game to game. Can this guy be really, really great? Mm-hmm. Can he pass more, especially if he's not going to run more? All those sorts of things. As far as the cap goes, his cap hit this year is not bad. It is a $31 million cap hit. So if it was one of those years where it was all coming on this year, sort of like Mahomes. Mahomes was going to have a giant cap hit this year. Right. Made sense to extend his deal to lower it. $31 million, I don't know. It doesn't sound like it makes sense. And the way that McLane is talking about it, it doesn't sound like he thinks they're going to give him an extension this offseason, which sets up for very interesting season for Jalen and the Eagles if there's no extension there, because there's no guaranteed money after this year.
Yeah, and I honestly think it would be a mistake. Now listen, depends on how much Jalen and his sides push for this extension.
And how much he wants?
Yeah, of course. Yep. Of course. I mean, you're hearing about other quarterbacks that may get extensions this offseason. Lamar Jackson may get an extension this offseason. There are going to be quarterbacks that get new deals this offseason. I would imagine Matthew Stafford is getting a new deal this offseason. Sam Bradford is going to get a new deal. Not Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford stinks.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold is going to get a new deal.
Same thing.
No, hell no. Sam Darnold's way better. Yeah. Yes. Sam Darnold's getting a new deal this offseason. Hell, Kirk Cousins may wind up getting another new deal at some point somewhere this offseason. And for a quarterback who won a Super Bowl and was the Super Bowl MVP just a year ago and did not get financially rewarded as we see most quarterbacks do after they have that type of an ending to a season, I'd be shocked if Jalen's side isn't pressing hard to get this done, because it gives him job security. It gives him, obviously, financial security, even more financial security, right, than what he already has. But more importantly, it allows him to sleep easy and rest easy at night, knowing that he doesn't have to think about where his future lies. I think it has less to do with the actual money that's involved than it does the implication that if the Eagles were to give him the extension, that it says, we believe in you moving forward. You're our guy. And that's what I think is important for Jalen Hurts. If they don't do that, it says the opposite.
Yes.
If I had to cut it any other way, it says the opposite if they don't give him an extension and he's asking for one.
Yeah, and I do think they have questions about him moving forward. I think it would be
That's
hard
fair.
not to be.
That's
and
fair.
then the other thing that comes into this, and you mentioned his side, is that if they think he should be paid like a top 5 quarterback, I don't think you can do it. Because what that does is those players, you are not signing other players because you have that guy. That is everybody wants to try to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback on a rookie deal, or even like Darnold. Darnold was only getting paid $30 million. That is half of basically what Jalen's going to get paid this year. So the market, when they gave Jalen the deal they gave him, it was the biggest or one of the biggest deals in quarterback history.
Yes.
In 22 or 23, whenever that was, 23, before the 23 season.
Yeah.
At that time, his trajectory looked like one thing. At this time, if his side is saying, hey, here's the average of the top 5 quarterbacks, this is what you guys got to get paid. If I'm the Eagles, I don't know if I can do that for 2 reasons. First of all, I don't think he's going to perform that way, or I think that's unlikely. But the second thing is, if you have to move on from him and trade him, that becomes more difficult if his number is not commensurate with what they think
his play is. Yeah.
And I think in the first extension, you're projecting what you think the quarterback will be.
Yeah.
The second extension, it's sort of like you should get paid what you are.
Yeah.
And what he is right now is sort of mid-packy as a quarterback, somewhere in that 10 to 20 range in terms of costs. And if they're looking for, we want to be paid like a top 5 quarterback, that's a very difficult decision for the Eagles.
Yeah. And I totally hear that, and I see that side of it. I really do. I like Jalen. I'm in his corner as far as wanting him here as the quarterback moving forward, but I do know that there are question marks there. I understand that. I get that. This is more or less about our commitment moving forward and whether or not you believe in me. Because I look at it this way. You got Jalen on a second-round deal as a rookie. He took you to the Super Bowl. You rewarded him for that. Even if you were to say, well, we paid you then for what we think you would have done moving forward. Well, since then, he's made the playoffs every year, and he's won a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP. So he's actually lived up to what you've paid him to this point, just based on what he did coming off the rookie deal and stepping in there for Carson Wentz, basically covering you and the mistake of giving Wentz the extension. He got you to the Super Bowl, gave you the belief that you have your next franchise quarterback already in-house, right? You didn't win the Super Bowl in 22, but you've been in the playoffs every year since then, and you've won a Super Bowl. And I understand he didn't lead the charge. I get that. I'm not going to do the semantics thing.
Sure.
I agree that there is some gray area there. I'm just saying I think this extension would be more about not making him the highest paid or this and that and the other. I think it's more about saying we're still committed to you moving forward. Yeah. And I think as a player at that position, you want to know that because he's going to make a ton of money. He's going to make money regardless, right? He wants to be the quarterback for the Eagles, and he wants to be here. Do you guys believe in me moving forward?
Well, and the last thing is, forget about what I think or you think or Jack thinks about what they would have done if he wasn't here. It really just comes down to the Eagles saying, we say he made the playoffs 3 years. It really comes down to, did they think, well, we could have done that with a less expensive quarterback than you.
Sure.
I don't know what they think. I have no idea what they think. Yeah.
So no, that's the argument on both sides.
Yeah.
It is.